almost seemed like, well, maybe this is the second time and not the first time. Or it could have been the third or fourth time. Like, we don't know. But we definitely know that at least twice, right? In the beginning in Genesis 1, and then now in Genesis 7. So twice the earth has been covered with water. And so Elohim is making this promise, not just with the
Yeah,
earth,
that is the point, I think. Yeah, yeah.
you know,
Mhm.
he's making this promise that, okay, creatures and the earth, they're probably like, okay, we had enough of this water already. you know, he's like, okay.
You
So
see that
really,
at before man is that, before God created man, there is no raining because no one to till the ground. That verse is also talk about the water. The rain is water, right? But that time is no raining, and then because the dew will I'm not remembered where is that verse, but it's
yep,
just like, yeah, related the thing that we talk about, like we don't know how many times earth is covering by water, but just like you said in this in the book of Genesis from 1 to 7, we can see that it's twice the earth is covered by the water, and then after that Yahweh Elohim just like make the covenant with man that I'll never do it again. We can see that, like you said, that God never said that to Adam. He only did that with Noah when he said that he will destroy the land by the water, so every creature will die. And then he promised to Noah that Noah and his family will be saved because he make that covenant with them. He never let water cover the earth anymore. Yeah, I you and my
yeah. And what's important is not just with Noah, he said that he would make it with all the creatures and with the earth. There is something with that relationship with the earth, and we're gonna dig into that more. But Elohim did say not just with Noah, but with all living creatures, and he made a covenant with the earth. So many times, right, in scripture, we'll hear them say, let's bring heaven and earth as a record. I don't know if you remember, there are different places in scripture where he calls the earth to give account or to hold record. There is something with this earth. I think about, again, tribal people, First Nation people, and their understanding of that connection with the land, with the earth, that it is living, that it has purpose. And I'm not necessarily going to say that I'm calling it Mother Earth, but I can understand where people see that. But I think we are seeing a very, very deep connection with Elohim and with the earth in the way that it functions and that they work together.
You know what I just thought about is the significance, how great it is that he honors the earth. He takes, I'll say, pride and care. I mean, unlike us, mankind as a whole cares little or nothing about the earth when it comes to money, when it comes to, just when he gave us dominion, looked like we just ran wild without regard. And if you look at the ozone layer, look at pollution, look at all of this stuff, and it's all based on the love of money. Whereas Elohim, he created the earth, he values the earth, And it would do wise and be well, it would be wise and for us to do well to value it as, you know, because it's just really, it just really came to the forefront of my mind reading the scriptures how much he honors and values and even respects the earth. And with that, I yield.
Amen. But the thing is that there are many places in this earth where people value the land. Because there are many heavy agricultural communities where they honor the land, respect the land. We would call it in Esther can tell you about it in the tribes in Vietnam. Major Daughter can tell you about the tribes in Africa. They honor the land. In some places, the land is a god. They throw their children in the river. They make sacrifices to the land to have a good harvest. So we can have the flip, where people create the land as their god. But there are many, many places in this world where they still honor and reverence the land. Even here in America, we have our Native Americans who, although we have taken their land and forced them on reservations, they still honor the land. They are still connected to the wind, to the mountains, to the water. So
You
I
know,
think,
you are so correct. And thank you for bringing that. You know, I guess I was just basically speaking on the abuse and the neglect and the disdain. Now, I won't say disdain, but um, just the way the earth has, the situation that it is with global warming. Perfect example. But that comes to the fact that there are more people who don't care to the end of the future of the earth, if you understand what I'm talking about. You are absolutely right. You are so absolutely right. However, the love of money in the hearts of so many people have brought the condition of the earth as it is now. And with that, I yield.
amen. Thank you for that. Let's get to Abraham. We're going to go to Genesis 12. Excuse me, sorry. So we're in Genesis 12, and I'll read um I'll read from the Transparent Bible, and then we'll read from the King James. But this is now it we see that Elohim is seeking out someone, because we understand that Abram was not even thinking about Elohim necessarily, because he lived in a culture in Chaldean with many gods. But we see in verse 1 that Abraham is the focus of Elohim's attention, of Jehovah's attention, and that he is going to woo him with a promise, which is much different because there's no flood, there's no problem, no one sinned. You know what I mean? It's not like Adam sinned and they got kicked out. It's not like Noah, was on a boat and all of humanity is dead. Like, they're living life here. And Elohim approaches Abram and says, I want to make a great nation. So let me get to the Transparent Bible and read that couple verses, and then Elder Rogers, I'll have you read as well. So we are in chapter 12, verse 1, and I'm reading from the Transparent English Bible. And Jehovah said toward Abram, walk for yourself from your land, and from those brought forth of yours, and from the house of your father toward the land that I will make you see. And I will make for you a large nation, and I will bless you, and I will make your name large, and you be a blessing. And I will bless those blessing you, and the one treating you lightly I will curse. And blessed in you will be all the families of the soil. And Abraham walked as Jehovah spoke toward him, and Lot walked with him. And Abraham was a son of 5 years and 70 years in his going out from Haran. Elder Rogers, will you read 1 through 5 for us? 1 through 4?
Now Yahweh had said unto Abram, Get thee out of thy country, and from thy kindred, and from thy father's house, and unto a land that I will show thee. And I will make of thee a great nation, and I will bless thee, and make thy name great, and thou shalt be a blessing. And I will bless them that bless thee, and curse him that curseth thee. And in thee shall all families of the earth be blessed. So Abram departed as Yahweh had spoken unto him, and Lot went with him. And Abram was 75 years old when he departed out of Haran. That was verse 4.
Mm-hmm. So now we still see this thing with land. It's very important to Elohim. And we see that from the beginning, I think we missed this. It is Elohim's intention that all families of the earth be blessed. I remember, when I was a young Christian and I would read about Abraham and his story, I don't ever think it caught my attention that it was always Elohim's plan to bless all families of the earth, all families, not just Jewish families or Muslim families or Indian families or Jamaican families or Vietnamese like all families, not black families, white families. It was all families. We've got to understand, again, by just reading the Torah for what it is and not through different cultures or different denominations, but to understand that this promise that's made with Abraham is meant to bless all families. Like the covenant with Noah was not to destroy the earth again by water. But we see now this broader covenant with Abraham is to bless all families. And what we're going to see is that Elohim is going to do in such a way that he makes a covenant, he makes the oath with himself. Like he's not even, like, regardless of what Abraham does or doesn't do, there is an oath that Elohim is going to make with himself to make sure that this promise comes to pass. And it's not just a promise, it's an oath. It is Elohim's desire from the beginning to bless all families through this one family. Now, that doesn't mean that you have to be of Jewish descent, because I think we think that it's only the Jews that are the chosen people. And as we go through this study, we're going to begin to understand that we'll see this progression of information and unfolding of Elohim's plan And it does include foreigners and sojourners and strangers in the land. We're going to even look at how in the tribes, Ephraim and Manasseh, their mother was Egyptian, but yet they become the strongest of all the 12 tribes. Right? And the way that Jacob blesses Ephraim and Manasseh, and he takes them in as their own, as his own. You'll see that when we get over to Genesis, the end of Genesis, right? But the point being is, as we move along and we really study, you'll begin to see that Abraham and his seed are meant to be an example and a blessing, so that all families, everyone is supposed to be blessed, not just the Jews. And there are no Jews right now. We understand that Jews don't appear in terminology until after Solomon. But Abram, at this point. So we're going to move to the next section where we see even more of the promise unfold. Anyone have any thoughts or questions about just this promise? Okay. Thank you, Elder Rogers, for joining us. All right, let's go to Genesis 15. And so we've jumped from 12 to 15. And we're going to look at even more as Elohim begins to reveal more of the promise. And this is where we see in chapter 15 that Jehovah is even going to make the covenant by himself. This is how much he wants to bless all the families of the earth. Like, he's not even going to rely on humans anymore necessarily. He's going to cut this promise with himself. So let's go to Genesis 15. And in verse 1. After these things, the word of Jehovah came unto Abram in a vision, saying, Fear not, Abram, I am thy shield and thy exceeding great reward. And Abram said, Adonai Elohim, what wilt thou give me, seeing I go childless? And the steward of my house is this Eliezer of Damascus. And Abram had said, Behold, to me thou hast given no seed. Remember, we saw that word seed back with Noah. And the lo, one born to me in my house is mine heir. And behold, the word of Yahweh, Jehovah, came unto him, saying, This shall not be thine heir, but he shall come forth out of thine own bowels, be thine heir. And he brought him forth abroad, and said, Look now toward the heaven, and tell the stars, if thou be able to number them. And he said unto him, So shall thy seed be. And he believed in Jehovah, and counted it unto him for righteousness. And he said unto him, I am Jehovah that brought thee out of Ur of the Chaldeans to give thee this land to inherit. Always we see this setup where Jehovah is always saying, I brought thee. He reminds you. You know, I was doing a study on covenants. Okay, let me not jump ahead. Hold on. I can do it here. I was doing a study on covenants, and it's called the vassal and the Lord covenant in Near Eastern times. When you go way back and you look at how they set up a covenant, and it was always between It was the idea of one king said to another lord or prince, look, this is what I'm going to do for you. And so the way it would start is that the stronger or the superior would remind the lesser what he had done for them. And then he would say, these are the blessings and things I'm going to do for you. And if you don't do them, these are the things that, and then these are the rules. And then if you don't do them, these are the things that are going to happen to you. And if I was like, oh my gosh, when you look through the Old Testament, if you notice, always, especially in Deuteronomy, Jehovah is always saying, I brought you out of Egypt with a strong hand. I am the God that delivered you. I always were seeing that Jehovah is always establishing himself, always reminding them what he did for them, how he's going to bless them, what the rules are. They've got to follow the rules. If they don't follow the rules, these are the punishments. I mean, it is a true covenant. It is such that that is what was done in the land. Even if you just go look at history, if you just do a search on covenants in Near Eastern, ancient times, that's how it worked. And it's exactly set up like this in the scriptures. Now we know that at the time that this is happening, that, Abraham is not necessarily writing all these things down. Someone went back and wrote these things down. So there is an understanding that this was the time, this is how they handled things. But we see, as we're in Genesis 15, verse 6, that Abraham believed Jehovah for righteousness' sake. And he said in verse 7, I am Jehovah that brought thee out of the Ur of the Chaldees to give you this land to inherit. And then Abram says to him, Elohim, where shall I know that you shall inherit it? So he wants a commitment, right? Because it's been a few years now. It's not like it was just yesterday. Chapter 12, although it looks close to us, it's been a few years. And so in verse 9, we're going to see where Elohim makes his own covenant and he swears by himself. And so this is how they did covenants back then, is they would slice an animal in half, and then the two people would walk together between the cut animals. And the idea is that if we break this covenant, this is what you should do to me, or this is what I'll do to you, right? I'll kill you and split you in half. So this was their way of making a contract, is that they would cut the animal in half, put it on the ground, and the two people would walk through. But what's amazing here is that Elohim doesn't let Abraham walk through. He does it himself. So let's read. Where are we? Verse 9. And he said unto him, take me a heifer of 3 years old, a she-goat of 3 years old, a ram of 3 years old, and a turtle dove and a young pigeon. And he took him all of these and divided them in the midst and laid them each piece against another, but the birds divided he not. And when the fowls came down upon the carcass, Abram drove them away. And when the sun was going down, a deep sleep fell upon Abram, and lo, a horror of great darkness fell upon him. And he said unto Abram, know of a surety that thy seed, again this idea of progeny, of children, shall be a stranger in a land that is not theirs, and shall serve them, and they shall afflict them 400 years. And also that nation whom they shall serve, I will judge, and afterwards they shall come out with great substance. So we see here the prophecy of the Exodus from Egypt. He hasn't even had children yet. And thou shalt go to thy fathers in peace. Thou shalt be buried in a good old age. But in the fourth generation they shall come hither again, for the iniquities of the Amorite is not yet full. So he's talking about enemies that they have not even met yet. Verse 17, and it came to pass that when the sun went down and it was dark, behold, a smoking furnace and a burning lamp passed between those pieces. I've still been trying to figure out what the smoking furnace and the burning lamp stand for. I'm going to try to do some more research. But there were two things. So when you make a covenant, the two of you walk through the middle of the animals. But in this case, Elohim made the covenant and the oath by himself without Abraham. But yet there were two entities that passed through, a smoking furnace and a burning lamp. So one day we're going to have to try to figure out what that means, but today's not that day. In the same day, Jehovah made a covenant with Abraham, saying, unto thy seed have I given this land, from the river of Egypt unto the great river, the river Euphrates. Now, we know the river of Egypt to the river Euphrates, where that is in the territories of the world today. So, we're winding up on our study today, but what's important is to look at the progression of the promise that Elohim is making with humanity, because he is trying to bless all peoples. There is something special about Abraham, because Elohim chose him. But Elohim chose him so that he would have the responsibility of making sure that all the families are blessed of the earth. It's not something that's supposed to be a secret. It's something that he's supposed to teach. Look at this. Go to Genesis 18. I think this is it. No, that's not it. I want to go to, hold on, where is it? Maybe it's Genesis 22. No, it's not it. Okay, I can't find it. Just give me one moment to find it. What I'm looking for, if anyone can help me find it, it's where Elohim is going to destroy Sodom and Gomorrah, right? And he says, shall I hide this thing from Abram? Because he knows him, that he will teach his children and his household. Abram, shall I hide this thing?
Genesis chapter 18, I think.
Oh, so I was in the right place. Okay. I guess I was too quick. Okay, so it is back in Genesis 18. What verse is it? Okay. All right, verse 17. Okay. Verse 17. And Jehovah said, shall I hide from Abraham that thing which I do, seeing that Abraham shall surely become a great nation, a great and mighty nation, and all the nations of the earth shall be blessed in him. We're going to see this continually as we look more at Abraham. Jehovah always says that because of Abraham, all of the nations, all of the families of the earth shall be blessed. It was always Elohim's plan that everyone is blessed. Nothing should be hidden or secret, or you're not allowed to have access. It was always, always meant to be open. Always we see Elohim is always saying, and all the nations of the earth shall be blessed in him. Verse 19, for I know him, that he shall command his children and his household after him, and they shall keep the way of Jehovah to do justice and judgment, that Jehovah may bring upon Abraham that which he has spoken of him. It is always Elohim's plan that every human is blessed, that every human understands and knows relationship with him. It is our responsibility in this inheritance of Abraham that we command our children and our household. And so for them, household would be like as if you're an employer, and you have staff, you have people that you influence, your community, right? They didn't have communities like how we have communities now. But it is our responsibility to teach our children and our households. Abraham and his seed, the responsibility is to make sure that all the nations of the earth are blessed. So this is not about me, my four, no more, just your family, just your community. That is not Elohim's plan. He is always saying that he wants to make sure that all the nations of the earth are blessed. So let's go to Genesis 22:15. We're going to see the same thing again. Genesis 22:15. So here, Abraham is going to offer up Isaac. So in verse 15, and the angel of Jehovah called unto Abraham out of heaven the second time, and said, by myself have I sworn, saith Jehovah, for because thou hast done this thing, and hath not withheld thy son, thine only son, that in blessing I will bless thee, and in multiplying I will multiply thy seed as the stars of the heaven, and as the sands which is upon the seashore, and thy seed shall possess the gates of thine enemy. And in thy seed shall all the nations of the earth be blessed. Why? Because thou hast obeyed my voice. We just cannot get past the fact that because of Abraham and his obedience, all the nations of the earth shall be blessed. Now, how are they to be blessed? Because Abraham is going to teach them what it means to walk with Jehovah. Well, how does that happen? Well, we're going to see that eventually we get to the giving of the Torah in Deuteronomy, but as we progress from Adam multiplying to do the land, to Noah multiply and fill the earth, to Abram go to a land that I'm going to show you, and thy seed shall be exceedingly great, shall be nations. And the thing is that there is no, do I have 1/32 of a bloodline of the seed of Abraham? I don't know that is what's important. whether you can actually trace your lineage back to Abraham. I mean, when you think about it, he had Isaac and Jacob. Jacob had their tribe, but then there's Esau. He's still of the lineage. So then Esau has his own 12 tribes. And then Abraham, after Sarah, has Keturah. And then he has more sons. So there are children everywhere. His seed is everywhere. But what we're going to see is that it's going to progress until the point where it's even the stranger living in the land, the sojourners. There'll be one law for the stranger and the native born. When we start getting into and really spending a lot of time in Deuteronomy and Leviticus, we're going to begin to see that it was always Jehovah's plan that we are blessed and that we are brought into relationship with him. I want us to let's go to Zechariah. I want us to skip here. Let's go to Zechariah 2, I believe it is. Is it 2? No, it's not Zechariah 2. Where do I want us to go, Elohim? It's actually in the description of our club 1040 window. Hold on. Let's see if I can get there. How do I get to 1040 window? I can't remember which verse it is in Zechariah. It is. No, sorry, it's not Zechariah that I want. It's Isaiah 56, sorry. Let's go to Isaiah 56. That's where I want us to go. Isaiah 56. We're going to read verse 1 through 8. Because, Isaiah is obviously way after Abraham and King David and Solomon. But we see something here that I think is important for us to understand. Isaiah 56, 1 through 8. Thus saith Jehovah, keep ye judgments and do justice, for my salvation is near to come, and my righteousness to be revealed. Thus saith Jehovah, keep ye judgments and do justice, for my salvation is near to come, and my righteousness to be revealed. Blessed is the man that doeth this, and the Son of Man that layeth hold on it, that keepeth the Sabbath from polluting it, and keepeth his hand from doing any evil. Neither let the son of the stranger that hath joined himself to Jehovah speak, saying, Jehovah hath utterly separated me from his people. This is Jehovah talking to the son of the stranger, telling the stranger not to say that. Neither let the eunuch say, behold, I am a dry tree. For thus saith Jehovah unto the eunuchs that keep my Sabbath, and choose the things that please me, and take hold of my covenant. Even unto them will I give mine house, and within my walls a place and a name, better than of sons and of daughters. Now, we've just seen all these promises that Jehovah has made, especially with Abraham, that it's your seed, you're going to be a great nation. It's always about multiplying, subduing the land, filling. It's always about having children and multiplying. But here, Jehovah is speaking to the eunuch, and saying, listen, I'm going to bring you into my house, within my walls. I'm in Isaiah 56, verse 5. And place a name better than of sons and of daughters, and I will give them an everlasting name that shall not be cut off. Also, the sons of the strangers. So he is not talking to what we would consider the bloodline of Israel that join themselves. So also the sons of the strangers that join themselves to Jehovah. He didn't say join themselves to the tribes. He didn't say join themselves to, then he said join themselves to Jehovah, to serve him and to love the name of Jehovah, to be his servants, and everyone that keepeth the Sabbath from polluting it, and taketh hold of my covenant, even them will I bring to my holy mountain, and make them joyful in my house of prayer. Their burnt offerings and their sacrifices shall be accepted upon mine altar. Now remember, there's a time in our understanding that only the line of Levi, only the high priest could make offerings and sacrifices. But he's talking about bringing the son of a stranger in, bringing him into the holy mountain, bringing him into the house of prayer. Their burnt offerings and their sacrifices shall be accepted upon my altar, for mine house shall be called a house of prayer for all people. Elohim, which gathereth the outcasts of Israel, saith, yet will I gather others to him, besides those that are gathered unto him. It is always Elohim's plan that all the nations of the earth be blessed. And there is a responsibility for us to study the Torah, to understand it, to know that there is a promise, that there is a relationship, that there is covenant. It does not belong to one culture. It does not belong to one denomination. It is for all families of all nations of the earth to be blessed. And you are to be joined to Jehovah. That's what he wants.